Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Political Science by Dr. Markhan. Today we are going to discuss a very important concept, that is post-behavioralism. We have already discussed behavioralism. So after the behavioral movement that surfaced, right, a reaction to the movement came up. And this movement is normally regarded as post-behavioral movement or post-behavioralism. Now, why post-behavioralism emerged? Let's talk about it. The behavioral movement remained popular and relevant for almost 2 decades, from 1940 to 1960. For 2 decades of time. But it created a crisis within the discipline of political science. Why the crisis? Because it divided the political scientists or the thinkers into two warring groups known as traditionalist and behavioralist. Earlier it was not there. So political scientists had realized that too much time was spent on trivial and irrelevant research by then. When the behavioral thinkers were engaged in building theories and paradigms using quantification and data analysis, the world was facing serious political, economic, social, and cultural crises. But they failed to offer any practical solution to all these burning problems of humanity. Fear of the nuclear bomb, war in Vietnam, internal challenges faced by the US, etc., were not being able to be solved by the behavioral thinkers because they were not concerned about all the current or contemporary issues. So, there was a realization among the political scientists that the subject matter of political science is so vast that one single approach cannot be applied to make a systematic study of it. Now, what has happened? So the post-behavioralist argued or advocated that what kind of research was that which could not address contemporary socio-political issues? So it was a surprise. It was a wonder. Again, they asked, what was the use of developing sophisticated research tools akin to natural sciences if the political scientists were not being able to contribute to the welfare or development of society? Professor David Easton, who himself was laying the foundation stone of behavioralism, made an open attack on the research methods of behavioral thinkers. Professor Easton, in his presidential address to the annual convention of the American Political Science Association, that is APSA, held in 1969, declared that he felt dissatisfied with the political research and teaching made under the impact of behavioralism. The behavioral approach was trying to convert the study of politics into a discipline based on the methodology of natural sciences. Mathematics was making its way in political science to the extent that it began to look more of mathematics than a science related to the realities of social life. In their efforts at research and application of scientific methods, the behavioralists have gone far away from the realities of social behavior. In this way, political science again lost touch with the current and contemporary world. This is how Professor David Easton remarked about the behavioral movement. Thus, a new awakening came up, highlighting the serious drawbacks and irrelevant themes and research tools employed by the behavioral thinkers while studying political science or politics. These all have contributed to the growth of post-behavioralism. Now, we need to understand another one very crucial aspect, that post-behavioralism is no traditionalism. The behavioralist turned post-behavioralist clearly say that they are not coming back to traditionalism, but they were ready to accept certain reforms within the behavioral movement. However, both traditionalism and post-behavioralism were highly critical of behavioralism. That we need to keep in mind. The difference between traditionalism and post-behavioralism is that traditional or classical thinkers were not ready to accept the relevance of the behavioral approach, and they reaffirmed their faith in the classical traditions of political science. But the post-behavioral thinkers readily welcomed the achievements and advantages of behavioralism while taking political science to a new dimension or direction. Thus, post-behavioralism is regarded both as a movement and an intellectual tendency. Also, it would be purely misleading to associate post-behavioralism with any particular political ideology, as it involved political thinkers from all backgrounds. Finally, Professor Easton stated that post-behavioralism was future-oriented, seeking to propel political science in new directions and to add rather than deny its past heritage. It was a genuine revolution, not a reaction, a becoming, not a preservation, a reform, not a counter-reformation. Now, there are two main demands of post-behavioralism. Clearly, the transition from behavioralism to post-behavioralism gave more recognition and acceptability to political science. Further, the post-behavioral thinkers put forward two main demands or goals for their studying political science. These two goals or demands are: number one is relevance, number two is action. With them, normativism and empiricism was brought together. The subject matter of political science came to accept both traditional and modern features so as to make it more relevant and acceptable. The post-behavioralist, by accepting the importance of the study of values of politics, indirectly recognized the merits of the traditional approach. Now, friends, there are traits or features of post-behavioralism. Let's discuss about that. Professor David Easton, who earlier gave 8 main characteristics of behavioralism, which we already studied, later came up with 7 major traits of post-behavioralism. He described these traits as the credo of relevance or distillation of the maximal image. These traits are: number 1, it is highlighted that in political science, research, substance must come before technique. It means that higher level tools are good to have, but for what purpose they are being used is very, very important. If such tools are not contributing to social good and useful for addressing contemporary problems, they have no significance, they have no relevance. Against the slogan, "It is better to be wrong than vague," popularized by the behavioralist thinkers, the post-behavioralist opposed it by saying that it is better to be vague than non-relevantly precise. Second, the behavioral thinkers emphasize on social preservation, but the post-behavioralist thinkers stress on social change. For long, the advocates of behavioralism studied and analyzed facts without considering their relevance for social issues. Number 3, during the peak of the behavioral movement, it largely ignored the brute political realities of politics. Though the main part of the Western world was acquiring material wealth, but at the same time, it was also encountering conflicts, anxieties, and social upheavals. The fact is that the behavioralists hardly addressed these conjectures or problems, but kept themselves engaged in abstraction and analysis. It is the responsibility of political scientists or thinkers to address and solve these issues. Number 4, though the behavioral thinkers did not completely ignore the values, but by giving too much importance on scientism and value-free approaches, make them completely irrelevant, because they were stressing too much on scientific, aspects of political science. They want to make it more, closer to natural sciences. So values have gone nowhere. Precisely, values play a major role in politics. So ignoring them would be a great loss for political science and its research. Thus, values need to be restored to its original position if knowledge was to be used for the right purpose. Number 5, post-behavioral theorists say that political scientists have a significant role to play in society. They have a responsibility to protect human values of civilization. In the name of research and discovering objectivity, they can't remain in isolation from the realities of society. Number 6, if the intellectuals understand the problem and are involved in them or wanting to involve in them, they cannot shy away from taking action. Thus, knowledge must be used for practical purposes. Professor David Easton said very clearly, To know is to bear the responsibility for acting, and to act is to engage in reshaping the society. That's a fact. And finally, number 7, once it was recognized that the intellectuals have a positive role to play in society, and this role was to try determine proper goals for society, it is evident, very evident, that politicization of the profession is bound to take place. So, friends, post-behavioralism have taken us to the next stage. It has actually brought the best parts of traditionalism and behavioralism together. Post-behavioralism, that is how, has given or rejuvenated political science to a new direction. Political science with post-behavioralism has become more and more relevant and recognized the actual realities in politics or society. So friends, thank you once again for watching. Kindly share and subscribe my channel. I always request you to do this because if you help me, I'll be also able to help you. I'll be bringing you more and more interesting conceptual issues to you in a very simplified format. Once again, I request you to watch, share and subscribe my other two channels, Dr. Markan Saikya's talk on foreign affairs and Dr. Markan Saikya's talk on national affairs. Thank you and bye-bye.